Hey, what's up, friend? We are going to tackle the topic of Santa Claus today. So if you have kids listening to this right now, you might want to pause this episode and come back to it later. Cece Bloom, the author of The Top Secret Truth About Santa Claus, is here on the show to talk about how she's found a really wonderful, genuine, loving way to break the news about Santa to her kids and kids all around. Because whether you do Santa Claus or not in your house, at some point, your kids will probably have some questions. So Cece's here to help us through that, and she's also going to talk about how she's been able to elegantly balance older kids who know the truth about Santa Claus and younger kids who don't. And it's all wrapped up in a really fun concept called the Top Secret Agency. You're going to love this one, so let's go ahead and kick it off. It is my pleasure to welcome Cece Bloom. What inspired you to write a book specifically about Santa Claus? Because you mentioned, a lot of parents do struggle with that, among many other things. So what was it about Santa Claus that drew you to, start writing a book and then creating this whole agency idea out of it?
Yeah. So, like I said, I have 4 kids. We homeschool, and in the homeschooling world, especially, I think you find a lot, the whole gamut of how people deal with Santa Claus. I mean, some parents don't want to touch it at all, and some parents go all in. And I guess that's not even just homeschooling. That's really everywhere. Like you said, maybe you don't push Santa on it, but culturally, there's no avoiding Santa. He's there. He's in the malls. He's on the stores. He's on the Coke cans. He's everywhere. So, but I ran into a lot of scenarios by 4 kids of some pretty awkward moments and situations that you're like, how is there not a better solution to this? Times where kids, we're telling other kids, oh, he's not real. This isn't true, blah, blah, blah. Times where it's different, little spoiler alert type things happened, or kids, being so excited and coming to tell their friends about it. And the friends kind of going, no, that's not the real deal. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So, I just felt like there had to be better for parents and for kids, because it really is culturally unavoidable. But also, when I started to dig into what the real story is and how we got to this place of the Santa that we know today, the real story behind the whole thing is just amazing. And it's so God-centered, and it's so neat that this Santa, the cultural Santa that we kind of all know, that a lot of Christian families pulls us away from the real meaning of Christmas. The real story is so God-centered and so focusing us back on what Christmas really should be about, and on Jesus. So I thought, gosh, how did this story really get lost? I know some people know a little bit about Saint Nick, or you sing the Christmas carols that they mention his name, or it's one of the names of Claus. But the real story is just so beautiful and so God-centered. So I thought, this is an easy solution. We just go back to what the real story was and talk about that. And then, yes, the top secret truth part starts with telling the story, the real true story of Saint Nicholas. And then it explains how it morphed from this Saint Nicholas story into what we know today as Santa Claus. It's actually really neat. Being a homeschool mom, I love teaching moments. So many of them. So digging into the history of it all, it really was neat. The name just kind of morphed over time in the different cultures that it went to. And in the book, you see different pictures of all the Santas from around the world, which was kind of fun to see too, how cultural there are people, celebrating with Santa Claus, but he looks a little different and they have a little different name for him. So, and then the end of the book, kids get a chance to what I call enter the top secret truth agency, and they sign a contract saying basically you're going to help keep this secret, to yourself. And several reasons for that. But one, Saint Nicholas, when he gave his gifts, he really was a man who lived and who really did give gift giving, and it was inspired by God's inspiration on his life. And so what I love about his story is that he did it all in secret. He didn't do it looking for credit. He wasn't trying to, to win favor. He did it at night. He did it when he could sneak around and not get caught, basically. And the goal was to bless others in secret, not for credit, not for his own glory. And so I do the secret part, I
Mm.
think helps obviously the cultural thing, no spoiling
Yeah.
it for other kids, but also there's a kind of higher calling at the end of the book to get kids involved in becoming like Saint Nick, becoming like Jesus, and
Mhm.
loving on others, having eyes for others, looking for places where you can serve and give and do, and not doing it for the
Yeah.
credit, which is, so countercultural right now. But so they get to sign this little contract to become part of the Top Secret Truth Agency, where they start working on their own little missions. But yes,
Mhm.
and my hope was that that would help look at all the different problems surrounding the Santa conversation and see how I could help parents out and kids out
Yeah.
with the different challenges facing us as parents, and that secret part is one of them. So that's kind of where
Mm.
that started.
I absolutely love that. And the fact that, I want to go back to something you said. I think when we think about Santa Claus, Christmas, the Christmas season, and then Jesus Christ being the reason for the Christmas season, at least my head typically goes to, oh, they're at odds with each other. Like you can't have Santa Claus and you can't
Mm,
have Jesus Christ, because one is fake and
mm,
one is real. And Santa
yeah,
Claus, it's just a fun story, a fun character, and he flies around, Christmas Eve and delivers presents. But I like that you said
yeah,
it's actually a God-centered story. There's a faith element to the true story of who Nicholas was. So we don't always have to
yeah,
think they're at odds with each other as long as we bring in, the real truth behind the human Nicholas.
yeah.
Yeah.
As you might have seen, Hannah, I have a website, the truthaboutsanta.com.
Mhm.
I also started a blog because for me at Christmas time, especially, I don't want one more thing to do. It's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a lot.
I there's that cute little elf that you have to hide and stuff. I am
Yeah.
so bad at. I thought, you know what? I don't want to give parents one more thing to have to think about, especially at that time of year and beyond. So I
Mhm.
began the blog really to help parents with, okay, my kids are now part of the Top Secret Truth Agency. They've signed the contract. They want to start doing missions of their own, like from here. And so the blog really takes
Mm.
you from the end of the book to what's next. And I really wrote it
Yeah.
to kids so that your kids can even get on there themselves if you want, or with you, and they can start reading it themselves and kind of taking the reins. And so my
Mhm.
hope is that kids will step up in there and start looking at, okay, what are mission, like what is a mission, what can I do, how can I do a like
Mhm.
a TST mission, as they're called on the website. At the end of the book, like I said, they sign the contract. You become, as the parent or caregiver, their senior agent, and they become a junior agent. And so there's blog
Yeah.
posts for senior agents, there's blog posts for junior agents, but the junior agents, there's all kinds of ideas for missions, and every single one
Mhm.
off by their senior agent, because I don't want any kids, going out there, going rogue,
Yeah.
doing things that parents don't want them to be doing. But
Right.
there's all kinds of ideas there, and they can get on there themselves and look at them, or
Mm.
you together as a family can get on there and see what those ideas are, you might be able to do, and have them brainstorm, have them think about, like, okay, now that you're in that role, and now that you want to
Mhm.
be kind of like Saint Nick, doing something in secret to bless someone else. What do you think we can do? Who do you see
Mm.
out there in your, and the way I've started it is kind of starting with I've started with, like, I call it the circles of influence. So starting with the junior
Mhm.
agent themselves, to look at themselves and kind of go, like, am I having a good attitude? Am I at home? Like, cause we don't start with ourselves and kind of like, okay, Lord, what is it that you want to do with me? And where do I need to be working on myself so that I can bless
Mm.
others? Then,
Mhm.
so it starts there with junior agents, and for all of us as parents too. Um, to kind of be
Yeah.
self-reflective and talk to God about what his purposes are for this and what he wants us to be doing and thinking. And you might even sit on a self mission for a couple weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's thinking, talking, praying, journaling. My hope is that it opens
Mhm.
up great conversations for parents with their kids, or to just talk to them about, yeah, like, what do you think God's trying to tell you? Have,
Mhm.
like, let's pray, let's journal, let's do this together. And then from there it builds out. So the next mission would be a family mission, where your kids are literally looking in within your family to bless
Mhm.
others. And there's a whole list of ideas of what that looks like. And then it grows from there. And like I said, kids might sit on one of those circles of influence for days, weeks, months,
Mhm.
whatever it is you think that they're ready. And I made little certificates also that are also on the website. So when they
Love that.
accomplish one of those missions or they kind of graduate past that level, you as their senior agent can even give them a little printout. They're downloadable on the
Mm.
website, so you can print. It's, easy to do, and you can acknowledge kind of their progression through those steps of missions, and yeah, sign off and kind of just reward them with something that you notice as a parent that they're doing, because they're not doing it for the credit or
Mhm.
the glory, but it is fun for a parent to get to acknowledge that with their child.
So, Cece, I want to ask you, you said your youngest is 6, hasn't read the book yet. So, how are you
Hmm.
balancing the older kids knowing the truth and, acting
Hmm.
upon being selfless and blessing others, um,
Yeah.
and your 6-year-old who isn't quite there yet? How do you balance those different stages in one house?
Yeah. Well, I mean, having the book and having the whole, the contract idea, spelling out
Yeah.
the importance of not spilling the beans for everybody, right? That has been
Hmm.
really helpful. Then the big kids, it's actually been really sweet because writing the book, so I started writing this book 2 summers ago. Um, and my oldest son was actually my beta reader. So that was really fun because he already
Love
knew the
that.
truth. He actually had a cousin who spilled the beans to him, and he came to me literally
Mm.
on Christmas Eve several years ago. And my husband's a firefighter, so he worked Christmas Eve and or Christmas Day. So I remember that
Mhm.
year I was downstairs. I had gotten all the kids to bed, and I was literally building a bike by myself for let's
Oh
see, would have
boy.
been, I think it was his younger brother or my daughter. I can't remember who it was, but a little bike. I was trying to, get the last minute wrapping, all the things that you try to do to keep the
Hmm.
Santa, stuff alive. Like, oh, the Christmas,
Yeah.
all the gifts that were hidden in my room, now they're under the tree, all that
Oh,
stuff that
yes.
I have a hard time keeping up with. So I'm downstairs and I'm by myself. It's late and I thought everybody was asleep. And he comes down the stairs and says, Mom, uh, I know. And I was like, you know what?
Oh,
And he starts to tell
no.
me that I had a cousin told him. Anyway, spending, staying up with me the next couple hours, and we had great conversation about it. And
Mm.
and he helped me, finish wrapping the gifts. And he's like, I can help you now. And so that was really
Yeah.
sweet. And that kind of helps spur something too of like, I know a lot of parents get really sad about I hear a lot of parents say, I
When they
want one
find
more
out.
One more Christmas. Yes, one
Yeah.
more Christmas with the magic. They say, I want one more Christmas that where they
Mhm.
where they still believe. I had parents good friends of ours who had 2 sons that were in middle school. They had the birds and the bees talk, and they had not had the Santa talk. And
Oh.
so when I was had written this book, it wasn't published yet. I gave it to them. Actually, they said, can we read it to our boys? Obviously, their
Mhm.
boys were clued. They hadn't had the official talk with them, and so they read
Mm.
this book with them, and they said it was really actually helpful for them. And again, they were able to kind of gently put them in the know without it being, like, why didn't you tell us this? Like, come
Yeah.
on. Anyway, there's
Mhm.
the book really, my goal really was to try to help with that, so that when you have multiple
Mhm.
kids, you're not trying to do this crazy balancing act. It really tries to help you with that of, listen, there's a responsibility piece here too. You know something that you're
Mhm.
allowed to know, but maybe not everyone's ready to know. There's something to
Mm.
be responsible about that with. And for my oldest, just like how he was wrapping those gifts with me that night, he felt so proud of
Mhm.
himself. The book has helped with that too, of kind of showing them,
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is a big step up. You get to be part of it now, which is
Mhm.
which is super exciting, but like, be responsible with that.
Oh, man, I'm thinking back to, like, the letdown, right? It's like, oh gosh, now you kind of feel almost like a crappy parent because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I lied to them all these years," when they find out. So, when it comes to introducing the book,
Mhm.
did you wait until, kids were kinda like, "Wait," like, questioning things or, like, until they found out? Or, what's your best advice there?
Yeah, I mean, every family's different, right? So
Mhm.
in our family, we're similar to you, where I don't push the Santa Claus thing that much, but you
Yeah,
can't avoid it. And
right.
so I've kind of let them have that, like,
Mhm.
but then when they start to ask questions, a lot of times I would just kind of say, well, what do you think about that? Or, I would see where they're
Mm.
at, kind of feel the temperature they were at. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, again, for parents, like that's why I call this book, I say, really, it's for parents It's for all families. It's really just a matter of the when. I always like to err on the side of truth.
Mhm.
I don't know. I didn't want to have a lot of big stories that I was trying to cover up and cover up and cover up.
Right.
And I'm not, I know some families just love the whole Santa thing. So I'm not trying to to make waves there, but
Yeah.
if you get to that place where, even parents who go all in and they do the different wrapping paper and footprints
Mhm.
coming out of the fireplace, whatever it is that you might do to keep the secret alive, certain point there comes a time where you're like, I can't do it anymore. They're on to me. So
Mhm.
whenever that point comes, really, that's when I feel like the book is for you. And like I said, yeah, I've run into a lot of families who just, they don't want to do the Santa Claus thing, really. I should say, they don't want it to be the main focus of Christmas.
Mhm.
And so for those families, this really is a great way to just introduce the whole thing to your kids and to teach them like what how it all started and how it became the cultural phenomenon that it is, but what
Mhm.
we should be doing with the true story and what really God has for us.
Mhm. Yes. I love it, love it, love it. All right, Mama, I hope you enjoyed that one. To go get the book, The Top Secret Truth About Santa Claus, to get mission ideas, to become a top secret agent or become a senior agent yourself, go to thetruthaboutsanta.com. It is also linked in the show notes, so you could go ahead and click from right there. All right, that's a wrap for today, and I hope you have a beautiful, hope-filled, blessed week. And I'll catch you again next time for a cup of coffee with a side of faith, wisdom, and hope.